Hey guys, it's me, Vinny I'm back here. This is the halftime show from the Bengals at Ravens game on Thursday Night Football in Week 10 of the 2023 NFL season. And as we know, I haven't really checked on it as much. Bill's coming in. I'm going to get him situated once he puts his. Hey, Bill, how you doing? I haven't really seen
Right. Yep, I'm ready to go. Uh, there's an old saying that preparation and hustle creates luck. And we've seen some fortunate things happen for the Ravens, but I think their preparation and their hustle helped to create those things.
Oh, definitely. The Ravens scored 2 touchdowns after Burrow got injured. Now, granted, I have not seen this game as much as you because I was busy filling out some of my taxes.
Understood. Business before pleasure.
Of course,
But
definitely.
right, you had a deflected pass caught for a touchdown. Nelson Aguilar and Odell Beckham Jr., who have been, what's the word we're looking for? Sporadically contributors, have both contributed. And for Cincinnati, obviously with Burrow having an injured throwing hand, which he may or may not be able to return. My guess is if he did return, he'd essentially be a reduced version of himself. He'd be probably hand the ball off a lot and maybe throw the ball on maybe short passes at best. For those who've ever had an injured throwing hand, and I wasn't a quarterback past the age of about 12 or 13 was the last time I played quarterback in a competitive game, even at the youth level. And we ran the veer, Vinny, which means we threw the ball maybe 4 or 5 times at most.
It's
If
fine.
we threw the ball more than 4 or 5 times, it meant everything had gone wrong. So I was pitching the ball or handing the ball or running with the ball, but I was almost never throwing it forward. For
Of
those who've
course.
ever run veer option offense, and my coach was Herman Reed Sr. His son, Herman Reed Jr., was more often known as J.R. Reed and was a two-time All-American at UNC and, of course, a early first-round draft pick of the Hornets. I think that's what they're called at the time, Charlotte Hornets. But to the matter at hand, as I've said since even before the season began, the Ravens are the class of the AFC North. And this is their chance to put their stamp on it.
Yeah, and I think they definitely have tonight, especially with Burrow being out. Actually, I was thinking for a second if he had tore his UCL or something.
No. It's nothing like that. It doesn't look like it's something that should cause him to miss. I mean, he might not miss the rest of this game, but if he misses the rest of this game, he probably shouldn't miss much more than that. I'm guessing, and once again, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I'm guessing it's probably a contusion and probably, maybe, some swelling and probably a little loss of fine motor control, even, I guess. But I don't think it's going to be anything much more than that. Obviously, we'll see. At some point, they're going to do MRI and they're going to do X-ray, and then they'll know exactly what it is. But my assumption, and that's all it is, my educated guess is that he'll miss probably the rest of this game and be right back next. But
Yes.
whether he returns in this game or the next, the Bengals need to, one, lean hard, very hard on their run game. They probably should have done that anyway, quite frankly, to slow down the Ravens' pass rush, which is one of the better ones in the league. Two, get your short passing game going, whether it's Burrow with a damaged hand or Kirk Browning, who even on the best day is a guy whose arm is, I think, to be kind, below average for NFL quarterback. Either way, his best is crossing patterns, mesh concepts, quick outs, angle routes, pivot routes, anything breaking towards the middle of the field and within about 12 or so yards is really where he makes his living. For those who aren't familiar with his collegiate career, he of course was a terrific quarterback at Washington, and his high school career, he set basically all the records, almost all the records. I think he might still be the high school career yardage passing leader ever, but if he isn't, he's still in the near the very, very top. And despite the fact he's not the most physically talented guy you've ever seen in terms of things like height, strength, arms, arm strength, mobility, whatever. He's a guy that really does see things quickly, gets the ball out quick. He's your classic backup quarterback, especially like West Coast offense backup quarterback. He is exactly what your mind thinks of when you think of all those other West Coast offense backup quarterbacks you've seen in your life. He's like all of them, right? Cerebral, a little undersized, just enough mobility to be able to occasionally pick up a little something, but not a guy who's going to hurt you in terms of, really be a threat and make you change how you defend. And, probably if he wants to be a coach, probably a future, quarterback's coach or coordinator. But, if you look back, like I said, at his career from high school to college and college to his, rather limited NFL career, you get an idea of exactly who and what he is. And he is, like I said, while rather limited in terms of things like, being able to push the ball and drive the ball into certain areas and that kind of thing. He is a guy that, knows the offense, knows the scheme, knows what's supposed to happen on each play. That's one thing you don't have to worry about. He's not a guy, it's not like, we talked about before with, the Pastronaut, where he doesn't even really know the plays or things like that. No, familiarity with the offense is not an issue. But they're definitely going to have to make some changes to their offense. And like I said, I would be, of course, the Ravens probably know this as well, but still, if you do it well enough, you can still get it done. I would be running the ball much more. I would be using some two-back sets, going some what's called 21 personnel, and even some 12 personnel, two tight ends, two running backs, sometimes both two tight ends and two running backs, and just saying, look, we're going to occasionally throw the ball off of this, but mostly we're going to lean into you in the run game, and can you stop us? Are you good enough against our attempt to run the football that we're not going to be able to pick up 3 or 4 yards? Because if you got 3 or 4 yards on first down, 3 or 4 yards on second down, and now you're left with 3rd and 3, and you run the ball well enough to pick up it on 3rd and 3, guess what? That's first down. You keep the ball. So I think you're going to see more of that. I think the Ravens also want to run the football. That's the one thing I think we both can expect in the second half is that both teams will be showing you that they want to run the football. And last but not least, sort of in terms of strategic and schematics and things like that, you almost always want to pressure test a backup quarterback. And that I mean 6-man pressures. I mean, bringing not one extra pass rusher, but 2 extra pass rushers, and just coming up close, right? Pressing and just firing, maybe 2 people right up the A gap, or maybe it's a slot, slot corner blitz, or maybe it's a combo where you've got a twist up front with like maybe a TE stunt, and then a linebacker running through into the gap, and then combined with, say, a corner or a slot or even a safety coming up off, outside. Either way, you're going to test how well he knows to call the protections and how well he knows all the blitz adjustments, hot routes, and things like that to keep himself from getting sacked. Because if he doesn't, you're going to sack him over and over and over again every time you get, to second or third and more than 4 or 5. What you said you didn't see as much of the game, but what are your impressions from what you have seen?
From what I've seen, it did seem very competitive at first. It did seem like, okay, this is going to, for the most part, decide the fates of their playoff odds. I mean, these 2 teams could still make the playoffs in theory, but in terms of the division, this, in my opinion, will decide the Bengals if they're going to really win that division or not. And from the looks of it, this year will not be their year to win the division crown.
Yeah,
I think, and I agree with you, the Ravens are the best team in that division. I have them at this point in the season finishing top in that division. However, with the AFC North, with how tough it is, the Steelers are really good right now. The Browns, with Watson now out for this season, I'm curious how they're going to even be.
Sure.
A lot of question marks.
Right. And like I said, I'm all for like miracles and exciting and things like that. And like I said, maybe they decide this is the moment to sort of take the training wheels off of Jake Browning and say, look, we can't win this game without you making at least a certain number of plays. And maybe you try to get a surprise, maybe it's on first down. You try to get a surprise deep shot off. And despite the fact that his arm isn't super strong, good to see Zennie with us, he does throw with good anticipation and accuracy. Maybe you just let him fire one deep shot off, and see what he can get. But like I said, extremely prolific high school career at Folsom, right? Folsom High, where he set all the California records and a bunch of national records in high school as a high school quarterback.
Hey, question for both of you.
Yep.
What's up with the Bengals defense?
They allowed 2 touchdowns from the Ravens offense in the span of like 3 minutes, roughly.
Why? Now, is it a game plan issue or an injury issue, or both?
Well, I mean, I think some of it. I mean, I'm not going to say it's all luck, but some of those things were things that. Oh, yes, good to see you, Raider PJ. Some of those things were things you can't really plan for, right? I mean, tip balls. I mean, there were some odd things that happened in there where. As I sort of said before, those old, coaching aphorisms about how, hustle and preparation help to create luck or create opportunities for luck. So they had some breaks go their way, obviously, but they're the better team, Zennie. Sometimes you just have the better team, right? It's not all game plan. I know you love game plan and stuff like that, but sometimes the better team just wins.
So you're basically saying that there's no advantage, no schematic advantage that the Bengals are bringing, the Ravens are bringing, because I think there is. That's why I'm asking. And
here's what I will say.
It's just the luck of the draw, and that's it.
I didn't say luck of the draw. I said that the best. No, that's not what. That's not what. Once again, you're putting words in my mouth, which is unsanitary. What I actually said is
I'm not being joking. I'm being funny.
Right, but what I actually said is they're just the better team. And remember, the Ravens have been operating a new offensive system, and they get a little better at it each week. So the Ravens team you saw the first 3 weeks of the year is not this team now. They're now understanding better how to create the spacing and timing that this offense was. The reason they moved on from an offense that actually they had a lot of success with, right? An MVP season had come from that offense. They had made runs, towards the Super Bowl with the old offense. When you decide to move on, you're a winning team, not a losing team. When you move on from your old offense, you're doing it for one reason only, to get over that last hump to the Super Bowl. And this might be the offense that allows them to do it. So They do have flat out the better roster. The only place where you can see the clear advantage for the Bengals was, of course, wide receiver. And that doesn't matter so much anymore if they've lost the quarterback. So
let me ask you. If you're the Bengals defensive coordinator, what would you do to adjust?
Okay, so here's the thing I would go ahead and say to do. The thing that used to always be the kryptonite was the zero blitz, right? That was the old book on Lamar, was that you spied him and then went zero blitz. And in the old days, if you couldn't get the ball to Mark Andrews and he couldn't create plays with his feet, you had it. And now with the new offense, he has different answers to the test. The answers come more quickly, and there's more available answers to him. And now he's beginning to trust some of the people not named Mark Andrews. Zay Flowers is a trusted companion already. You saw Nelson Aguilar, of all people, right? The old unlike Aguilar meme is now being maybe slowly put to bed as he made a big play off of, like I said, all things a tip ball. And Odell Beckham Jr. is now being integrated into the offense. If they manage to and Rashad Bateman, right, who a lot of people wanted to give up.
Guys, my mom has a question. Is Joe Burrow coming back?
Well, I mean, I'm not a doctor. My guess is no, though.
I'd say no as also.
Man, my guess is no. When a starting quarterback damages his hand,
just said on the graphic, it says you probably will not see Burrow the rest of the game.
Yeah, that was my guess. If your starting quarterback damages his hand, it's something other than like a bloody knuckle or he lost a fingernail. If it's something other than that, something that affects his ability to grip and throw the football. Generally speaking, you're going to be careful. You're going to be cautious. So I'm going to say they're doing the right thing. While they'd love to win this game, I mean, it's a very important game. the health and safety of essentially the most important player on the team and the person that determines whether or not they're good, not just this year, but the year after that, the year after that, the year after that, and the next 4 or 5 years after that is more important than even this one extremely important game. So they're going to be careful with Joe Burrow.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. I had to go here. Okay.
So,
all right.
So if he suffered, let's just say, a bone bruise and there's some swelling and he's lost some ability to grip a football, the only thing he'd be able to be out there do anyway would be hand the ball off anyway. So if your quarterback can't throw a football, no matter how talented he is, you're better off with the backup. That's just, that's the kind of analysis you kind of pay me for. But if you have a quarterback that cannot throw the football, go with the one who can throw a football. That's
by the way, folks, in case you're wondering, Raider PJ is actually PJ Kite, who was one of our vloggers before the two of you joined in earnest.
Nice.
PJ was with us when he was, how old were you, PJ? Were you 15, 16, 17?
Wow.
I think?
The world has changed. Yeah. I was still trying to be an athlete when I was that age.
Yeah, he's still, and not only that, he is majoring in sports broadcasting. Sound familiar, Vinny?
Yeah, definitely sounds very familiar.
I'd like you two to meet, so I think you'll have a lot of fun.
I'd love to meet him.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And we're going to be maybe bring on another fan, John Marks, who's been listening for years. Maybe
I would always love to meet. I've spoken with John here and there. I'd love to finally speak with him, face to face.
Yeah, he wants to vlog as well. So anyway, sorry, Bill. Didn't mean to interrupt you there. Just want to get that in before, and then only get it in and get out. So anyway.
Yeah, sure. And I'll just say one other thing about what you have to do now that Jake Browning's out there. Yeah. Obviously, I already talked about running the football, and I talked about using mesh concepts and using basically getting the ball out of his hands extremely quickly. And that's one thing he is very good at. He does have a quick release. He's a very smart young man. I talked about his high school career at Folsom, where he just tore up the California state record books and even some national records. His high school passing numbers look wrong. Like you look at them, that can't be right. He threw the ball a lot at Folsom High. They were an extremely spread offense. And like I said, the one thing you'll say is that he's not a person that doesn't understand passing concepts. He just doesn't have the best arm. He's just sort of like I said, but he's throwing one deep here now with a lot of air under it, and they should get a PI on that, and they do. Huh. But yeah, he's a guy that can throw with touch and anticipation, but he can't gun it in there, right? He can throw a ball 55, 60 yards, but he can't do it, like you see sometimes guys like Herbert and Allen, where they throw it 55 yards, but it's never more than 5 feet off the ground. Not like he can't do that, but he can throw it probably 55 to almost 60 yards. We have to put a lot of air underneath it and let somebody, sort of try to run to the spot where he's trying to throw it. And they're right to take some shots because the defense is packing, obviously pressing and packing, so everything's close to the line of scrimmage. They should take a couple of deep shots, and once again, if nothing else, at least get a pass interference.
Hey, Joe Mixon is. Hey guys, I'm sorry, Bill. Joe Mixon is 12 carries for 62 yards.
And they should feed. They should keep feeding him. I don't know, 120. He probably gets to somewhere between 104 and 108, 110.
What do you think, Vinny? 120?
Yeah, I'd say 120 sounds kind of good, or like 110, roughly around there. At least a little over 100.
Yeah, the reason he might not get all the way there is they spell their running. Once again, it's not 1974 anymore. I mean, you and I both are old enough to remember watching Orenthal James Simpson go for 2,003 yards in a 14-game season where he rushed for more yards than their quarterback passed, right? In that same year that he rushed for 2003, Joe Ferguson passed, I think, for 1,895 yards or something like that. So it lets you know how run heavy that team was. But
yeah, the reason as to why I mentioned that for him is because with Burrow out, they're probably going to put more emphasis on the running game.
They will, but they're going to spell it. He's not going to get all the carries though.
I wouldn't say that he was going to get all of it, but I think he could get over 100.
Yeah, so good news for people that have any of the Bengals running backs and guys who run underneath routes is that those guys are going to Trent Irwin's going to see a lot of work. I'm not in love with their tight end situation. I didn't think Irv Smith was exactly that dynamic kind of receiving threat even coming out of Alabama, but they're going to try to find ways to get, like I said, get the ball down the field. And Trent Irwin is, like I said, making an impact on this game. Obviously, a guy who's got a bigger body, good enough athlete, and most importantly, he really understands how to position himself to keep the defensive player away from the ball. Certain receivers really have a strong understanding of, like, almost like basketball players, how to box out the defensive back. And yeah,
funny you say that, because I think the Bengals have an issue with how they get Jamar Chase open. They don't seem to line him up in the backfield, put him in motion, or have him one of those zig routes where you start off at tight end, play action is to the right, you sneak over to the left, and then you go upfield. Remember, and you're right up in the seam and you're wide open. I mean, there's so many things you can do with Jamar Chase. It's not funny. And yet the Bengals don't seem that they have that headspace to do it. What do you all think?
They move him around some, but you're talking about what the Kansas City used to do with Tyreek, right? Where he'd be everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think
not exactly, but similarly. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. Well, I think that
actually I didn't have the Chiefs in mind. I actually had in mind Georgia football.
Oh, it's confirmed. Joe Burrow been ruled out for the remainder of the game versus the Ravens, and it says it's a wrist injury.
Okay, yes. Okay. So it means that it's probably a jammed wrist.
Calls for Jameis Winston to be sent to Bengals next.
Well, I mean, he's probably gonna miss one.
Well, I don't know if you'd be able to do that because the trade.
I'm being jocular. That's all.
Right. But yeah, trade deadline's passed. But most importantly, he's not going to miss probably more than just. I'm assuming it's a jammed wrist. So if he's just jammed a wrist, it hurts. I wrestled in high school and in college. I've had many jammed wrists. Wrestlers. Anyone out there who's wrestled can back me up on this. You have jammed wrists, pretty much some level of wrist jam from about November through January, and you just get used to it. But yeah, so it's sore, it's tender, and it would definitely affect his ability to put spin on the ball, right? Because in order to put spin on the ball, you have to be able to snap, right? Almost like a pitcher throwing a baseball, snap. Got the extension, right? As the ball's leaving your hand, be able to snap, and then with these last two fingers, boom, right? That's how you're putting the spin on the ball. A jammed wrist or slightly sprained wrist means that, one, that hurts, but two, even the flexibility and strength is reduced. So, yeah, they did the right thing by shutting him down for the rest of this game. Now, I'm going to
ask you two gentlemen to go for it, because I am sitting with my mom and she loves to banter about football and gets angry when I, leave for anything more than 20 minutes, of which it's about 22 minutes. You will understand one of these days.
Oh, I already do understand. I mean,
I understand my grandmother.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And my mother is not quite where your mother is, but she's 81, so you're getting there.
She's not that far. Only 8 years apart. It's not that far.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, and the thing about it is that you get to that point, which I hope I live that long, but you get to the point where all your friends are gone and you cherish the people around. You realize, like, who's there, right? So I got to make my mom happy. But thank you all. And, hey, PJ, can't wait to have you. And we're growing. I just say everybody, and we need more women vloggers.
Please, we want ladies. Please, if you want to join us, please come to us. Yeah, we'll make you at home. Seriously,
people of all types who want to talk about sports, culture, politics, fashion, anime, whatever the heck.
We don't want all types. We don't want we don't want anybody that's going to get us killed and put us in prison or something.
Well, that is
I don't think I mentioned breaking the law anywhere in there, Zennie. I just
any. You said any. You left it open, man.
Yeah, well, within reason. I'll tag it within reason. But to just a few more things about the game, and you mentioned defense specifically.
Yeah, I'm not really. I don't mean you guys stop. I just want to. But I need to go there just to make her happy.
We got that. So
yeah, you guys are the boss. I'll see you all.
Sure.
Okay.
Understood. Okay. So before Zennie left, he asked a quick question about game plan stuff and what could the Bengals do. Well, they're about to get pounded in the run game. So that's the first thing. If you can't stop the Ravens from running the football, they'll slow. They'll kill the clock. They'll take away the time you need to come back. So, and that's true of a lot of teams. You know, if you can't show you can stop the run, you're in for a very long night anyway. And this is a team that still, though they've moved away from the Greg Roman offense, they still want to run the football. They still are good at running the football, and they still know how to hurt a team in the run game. You know, take your spirit, take your soul, if you want to think of it that way, in the run game. And then obviously, I mean, that's sort of what it's like when you're playing defense and a team is just getting 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, 3 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards, 2 yards, 4 yards, over and over in the run game, and you can't stop them. It's demoralizing. It's almost like if somebody hits you with a deep shot and boom, you know, they score, they make 30, 40 yards or 50 yards on a pass play.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, you got, you know, it's like when you're fighting somebody and they get a flash knockdown, but you're not really hurt. You just got knocked down. You're like, okay, no big deal. But when somebody is just running the ball in your throat, it's like getting punched in the liver over and over again. Ever been punched in the liver before, Mr. Losbudism?
Might have like one time. It wasn't great.
It is exactly. It's not. That's well put. It's not great. You for a moment you feel like maybe you're dying, and then you realize
it really did hurt.
It's very, very painful. And imagine it happening over and over again. That's what somebody just running the ball down your throat feels like.
Oh, that'd be really painful.
It's very painful, and you feel helpless in a way that you don't when somebody just, you know, boom, somebody slips or, you know, or somebody just takes the wrong, you know, bites on a double move or gets out of position or, you know, forgets they're playing zone versus man and boom, somebody gets a big pass play. You're just like, okay, you know, shake it off. You can't shake off somebody, you know, with a 6.5 minute drive, you know, where they just run the ball from the 8 to the, you know, down into the end zone. That's demoralizing. But so one, they have to stop the run. That's the first thing. You have to stop the run if you want to beat the Ravens. Two, a turnover would really be helpful.
No, I'd say so.
They really could use the turnover. But the other thing that you need to do is they need to stop giving so much room. I know you want to guard against the big play, but I don't think the Ravens are about to take a bunch of deep shots against you. Not to say they won't take them, but that's not what they want to do at this point. They're trying to shorten this game up. So they have a lead. They know that you're playing a backup quarterback. They want to make sure that they hold the ball, push you around, and, you know, leave here with, I mean, once again, no one cares about style points in the NFL. You don't care about running up the score. You don't care about any of that stuff. You just want to win. You know, in college, because you're trying to impress people and things like that, yeah, you might want to try to see if you can get, you know, an extra touchdown, stuff like that. It doesn't matter here. So if you slow it down, yes, you know, people's stats take a hit and things like that, but you're taking away time the other team needs.
Right.
When a team's trying to come back, you know, they need the clock to stop. And that's why you're running the football, at least in part. They need the clock to stop. If you're running the ball, especially if you're running it effectively, the clock keeps going. And once again, it demoralizes the defense. So you have to stop them. You have to hold them here. If they don't hold them here to either nothing or a field goal, not that it's, you know, impossible to come back from, you know, 15 or 14 or whatever, depending on what happens with the extra point. It is not impossible to come back from 14 or 15 points down. It's just 2 scores. But when you have your backup quarterback in there, you've trimmed away some of your playbook, including some of your best explosive plays, because some of those explosive plays require arm strength and timing with the receivers that your backup just doesn't possess.
Definitely.
And the other thing I'll say about what you want to do on defense, change up the picture. Do some things differently. You know, if it's clear they've read your mail, as we used to say, it's clear they have a good understanding of what you're trying to do now. So do something else. If you have, you know, try a fire zone blitz, you know, drop one of your defensive ends and maybe one of your D tackles into the hook curl zone area, bring a linebacker, bring a safety, you know, do something different what you've been doing. Do a safe blitz, like I said, like a fire zone, you know, play zone behind the blitz, switch up your coverages. And yes, especially on the non-speed receivers, hug them up, just get up on them. You know, so the only person you really have to be truly afraid of, I mean, Bateman's pretty fast, but the guy that's going to really run past you, other than Keaton Mitchell, the running back, is Zay Flowers.
Right.
Odell Beckham Jr. still has good athletic ability for a man at this point in his career, but he's no longer just a pure run past you kind of guy.
No,
he's more of
not.
he's more of a make a move on you kind of guy. He's still very, very quick.
Mhm.
So yeah, they've got him at 4th down. So yeah, so it looks like they're going to hold him to a field goal. That's very important because now you just need a touchdown, 2x, a 2-point conversion and a field goal. So that's way better than needing 2 touchdowns. But there's plenty of time left. I mean, they've got 4 minutes and 13 seconds still to go in the third, but that was a time-consuming drive, which is what the Ravens wanted to put on them. And the other thing I would do is I would wasn't going to change the picture. Use formations and motions you haven't used at this point when you do get the ball back. And even though I know I said earlier that Jake Browning's not super mobile, they won't be expecting a called run. So on a 3rd and 7, call a quarterback draw. You're going to go for it on 4th down anyway. So, or you probably will, unless it's, very deep in your own territory. So no one's expecting it. Like the scouting report says, not a runner. It's probably like one of the first things you'll see on the scouting report for a guy like Jake Browning. And it's a fair thing. He's not super athletic, but I mean, we've seen Peyton Manning even call his own number in the, not often, but occasionally in situations where he knows the other team isn't expecting it. I would also, try to get some of those switch releases, right? People talk about sort of creating a natural pick. The thing about a switch release is especially against man coverage, it creates a bit of a problem. Now, against zone, it's less effective, but pick some points where you can sort of create some space and then get those routes that look like they're going to be deep routes, like comebacks and then bring it back towards the quarterback, because that's going to give you a chance to run after catch because the defender's worried about protecting deep. Now you're coming back towards the ball. Your momentum's coming downhill towards the quarterback. Now, if you're a really good runner after the catch, you're turning it into like a punt return situation, right? Somebody's coming downhill towards you. You now have the ball in your hands. Can you make the first man miss and turn that, even if it's if it's a 12, 14, 15-yard reception, but can you do more with it after the catch? You're not going to get many deep shots completed at least, but you might get plays that turn into big plays. And you should still take some shots. I would take 2 or 3 more deep shots just to see if I can get a pass interference like they did on the last one that facilitated their last score. What are you thinking? Maybe some things they might want to put on their to-do list there, Vinny?
I'd say I'd try to just control the run the best you possibly can if you're the Bengals, and if you're the Ravens, I would see if I could expose some of those areas in which they go to pass, especially if you're going to have a backup there. Also, in case you're curious, with 4 minutes to go in the third quarter, it's Ravens 24, Bengals 13. Both teams exchange field goals.
Right. Which in a weird sort of way is almost a win. I mean, you after they gave up a lot of yards, you would prefer obviously to not have them score on you, but
yeah,
giving up a touchdown, I wouldn't say it's the death knell. Like I said, there's more than enough time to come back, but you would rather be able to kick a field goal or get a touchdown and 2-point conversion and know that all you need now is a field goal to tie it, a touchdown wins it, as opposed to needing at least 15 points just to get a tie. So now you've got an opportunity. 2 touchdowns, if you can hold the Ravens, wins it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Anyway, I also want to ask in terms of, besides, we're just saying the game and whatnot, but what about for the AFC North as a whole? Like, what the impact does Deshaun Watson's injury have on the division?
Well, I mean, the first thing is it opens the door to the Bengals and possibly the Steelers to be that other team. I think we all already agreed that the Ravens class of the division, and now the race is for second. And all the teams that, all the teams are in it, right? The Browns, the Ravens, the Browns, the Steelers, and the Bengals are all still in it. The Bengals, if they fall to 5-5, well, at that point, be at the bottom of the division. Which tells you how strong the division is. That the worst team in the division is 5-5, and a team that some people thought might play in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals can still get it. Oh, I was going to say, they can still get it together, still make a run, but this is a game they really wanted.
Yeah, it's a game they really wanted. I'm more questioning about how the Bills were. Like the Bills had that very bad loss. Like they fired Ken Dorsey. I still feel like they're like I don't see them winning that division. I think at best they're a wild card team.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are a wild card team, they are a team that could maybe win in the first round, but I feel like they'd lose to a team like the Chiefs in the second.
Yeah. Well, one of the first signs that a team is beginning to fracture is now I'm going to be the first to say that Kenny Dorsey's not the world's greatest play designer, not the world's greatest play caller. But that loss specifically was not a Ken Dorsey loss. Like
it wasn't a Ken Dorsey.
That wasn't a Ken Dorsey issue. There wasn't the game plan wasn't that faulty, and the defense gave up some unexpected things. But it's clear somebody had to go, right? Somebody had to be the one sacrificed. They chose Ken Dorsey. But they've got bigger problems than that. Definitely. The problems run deeper than one guy wearing a headset in the press box.
Right. The Bills, I think, are a team that it feels like their window is definitely shrinking. That's for sure.
Sure, exactly.
I think the Dolphins are rising as like the higher team in that division. And listen, for a nice 3-year stretch, the Bills have been the best team in that division. No question. Like the Bills have been the best team in that division for the last 3 years, but now the Dolphins are becoming that best team in that division. So the Bills now a step back. They could be a wild card team, but you have Steelers, the Texans. The AFC is very, very, very competitive. Like you're gonna see, I can only see like one team with less than 5 wins, and that's the Patriots. I think that they might be the only team with less than 6 wins at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean the Bengals will be stuck at 5, I believe. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, at the end of the season. I mean, by the
right.
season
Oh, you're the season. Oh, sorry.
By the season's end, I think there'll be like 1, maybe 2 teams with less than 6 wins in the AFC. The Patriots and like some other team, maybe. But I see at least the Patriots as one of those two.
Right. Yeah, the Patriots are in a lot of trouble. We'll obviously need to wait and see what happens with a couple of teams in the AFC South also. I've
been telling people the Texans are a playoff team. They are.
The Texans are very, very good. The Colts, I think, are also right at 5-5. So there's a lot of teams still in contention in the South. The West is going to, belong to the Chiefs. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody.
Honestly, at this point, I'm willing to bet that the Chiefs are the only representative from that division making the playoffs. Like the Broncos, they've looked scrappy as of late, but I don't think they're there yet. The Chargers seem to find ways to lose games, and the Raiders, I know that Zennie's making a big deal about them, but I mean they could end up being the second best team in that division, but it's the Chiefs and everyone else in that division. It's very similar to how it was for the Patriots, cleaning up that bad AFC East. It feels just like
years, right? For many years, yes. And I agree that one thing I will say is the Chargers certainly have the talent. Like
I'm not denying they don't have the talent. I'm just
in terms of roster. I was gonna say in terms of roster, they may actually be slightly better than the Chiefs.
Yes, but it's more than just a roster that gets you the playoffs. It's also coaching. It's also execution.
It's a bunch of things. Right. Training staff. I mean, a million different things. I was just going to say that they're the team that I think still is a threat in the West. If the Chargers can overcome their coaching, and if their defense can be consistent, their offense has been fairly consistent. It's been the defense been up and down, but. To me, the ones where things will be interesting to see, the South, obviously the Jaguars are the class, but who's going to be the second team out of there?
Who knows if the Jaguars will win the division even? I mean, the Texans are right there. The Texans are right there. Like
Texans are right there. And you said could be a wild card team, or you might even have them winning the division. But the Texans,
I think they're definitely a playoff team. The Texans definitely feel like a playoff team.
Right. So we have the Jaguars and Texans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're close.
Right.
The 2 youngest teams in the NFL based on like
right.
Well, 2 youngest if you consider like history and the Ravens also, but but they're two of the younger teams.
Two
in
of the younger teams, right? They're from the last group of teams that were part of expansion.
Yes,
as the league grew, and this is the maturation process. You speak of young, of their quarterback, and some of their best players on defense are also fairly, moving into the middle part of their careers. But they have a lot of good players and a lot of different positions. They should be in a position to make a strong run down the stretch. And, it's shocking to me when I realize that we're already in week 11. It's only...
It feels weird to even say it. It feels like it feels like with this season in particular, it really just flew by very fast.
Season flew by. Season did fly
by. It did fly by. But here's a little fun fact about the Texans, too. The Texans, they've made the playoffs 6 times. 11, 12, 15, 16, 18, and 19. All of them were as division winners. Not a single time did they make it as a wild card team.
And I think that if they make it this year, it probably will be as a division winner as well. But, they still have a shot at the wild card if they don't.
Yeah, though to be fair, like when they did win their division, it was the worst division. I think half the times it was the worst division in football, but still a division win's a division win. I'm not going to take that away from them.
Right. If you won the division, you won the division. It's like saying, oh, you won the Heisman Trophy in a down year. I mean, it's the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
If you look in my house, there it is. So before you close out, the last few things I want to say is the Ravens, have a tough schedule, as we already talked about. I still think they'll end up navigating it to at least 11 wins, possibly 12, but 11 is very, very likely.
Well, with the Steelers, I mean, they are 6-3, and it feels like they're the worst 6-3 team there is.
And which is fine. I mean,
6-3, 6-3. That's nothing
right. You are what your record says you are, as many coaches have said.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a lot of depth, so they need to stay healthy. That's the first thing. They need to continue to play lights out defense. Their offense just needs to make plays when needed. They need to continue to use Jalen Warren, but Najee sort of that closer, right? And Najee Harris is, while I thought he was overdrafted and a little overrated coming out of college, he is really good at finishing games. He's a tough, no-nonsense runner. Catch the ball a little bit, not amazing. And like I said, my main issue with him is the lack of explosiveness, but he's still a battering ram of a guy. And late in the game, he's, nobody wants to see that coming. Right. They have a legitimate shot at 9 or 10 wins. So, they're going to fight their way into playoff contention and could make it, depending on, how many other teams get to that 9 or 10 win range.
Mm-hmm. Also, what the Browns, like I would say right now, the way it looks like, I think it's be Ravens versus in the division because of this competitiveness. I guess Steelers second. And then it's like Browns or Bengals as 3 or 4. It feels like depends on
right. I mean, we'll see what happens with the Bengals, but I still think they're the second best team. They may not end up being, but the second best record. The Steelers are probably going to end up with the second best record, but you mentioned the chance for 3 teams to make it in. And I still believe that you could be right. As many as 3 teams could make it. And that comes down to if the Browns end up playing, at least, they're playing, obviously with Dorian Thompson-Robinson the rest of the way. And Browning, maybe he still finished this game. Maybe he plays one other. We'll see. But how do those backups perform? The good news is Dorian Thompson-Robinson does have some NFL starting experience. Admittedly, not a lot, but some. That will help. All those nerves and butterflies and everything that you feel when you've never done it before are not quite as intense when at least you have had the experience of playing in starting in an NFL game. But if the Browns are able to essentially hold their position, right, win one more game than you lose the rest of the season, right? They have an excellent shot at. They have an excellent shot at it. And then once again, the Steelers, same deal. The Steelers are a team that could get hot or could, completely fall apart. Both things are somewhat equally equally likely to happen. But what I want to see from the Steelers, like I said, is can you make a couple of explosive plays on offense, whether it be to Pickens or someone else? There's other receivers. You can throw to other people. You're allowed to. I know the tight end position has not come through for them this year as it has in other years. I hope that they find a way to get production consistently out of the tight end position. And yes, I get it. They're a running team. I mean, not running to the point of like the old days, but they run the ball a lot for today's version of football. And you have to be more efficient.
Looking at the Steelers schedule, you have their next 8 games. You're in Cleveland, which could feel like either or, and then next week you're against the Bengals, and then the following week you're going to be hosting the Cardinals. So that first stretch of 3 games on CBS, it feels like it could go 2-1 or 1-2, maybe 3-0 potentially. Though the Steelers do have a history of sometimes losing to teams they shouldn't lose to. So
yep.
I could see the Browns they lose to. Then in week 14 on Thursday Night Football, assuming it doesn't get flexed, you host the Patriots. The Patriots have been very bad this year, but it's still the Patriots.
Bad, yes.
They are a team that has beaten the Steelers many, many, many times in the past. It can go either way. Then it's week 15 against the Colts in Indianapolis. I mean, the Colts are pretty scrappy. I could see the Colts beating the Steelers. And then the Bengals, they could win or lose. They're hosting that. It's on prime time. And then New Year's Eve, you're against the Seahawks in Seattle. And then you finish up the season in Baltimore against the Ravens. How many wins could you see out of that list of 8?
I mean, it's somewhere between 3 and 5 and 5 and 3, right? I mean, it's that's the real mystery. I mean, that's the magic. Like, can you get to 5 and 3 out of that last 8? That probably means you're in. Right.
I think there'll be a 6 or a 7 seed when it's all said and done. I think the Steelers will just edge into the playoffs, just barely, and they'll get destroyed in the first round. Maybe not destroyed, but they'll lose in the first round.
I know what you mean. I mean, sure, I get it. What you're saying. I think that one, as you pointed out, not losing to the teams that you should be able to beat, the teams that don't have great quarterback play or don't have a great defense or have some obvious flaw, that prevents them from being better, but have gutted out or gotten a little fortunate and gotten some wins. You have to win those games against those teams. Those teams are not quite on your level. The teams that are on your level or even above you, that's the real coaching, the real game planning comes in. But yes, I stand by. I think the Steelers are going to be probably about a 9-8 kind of season, and anything above 9-8 to me is we're celebrating. The below 9-8, not so much.
I think Tom will have yet another season 500 like he does every single year. It seems like that guy is wonderful. Anything else, like all these people that want to fire him, okay, who do you want that's better? Right. That's what I say.
Sure, and available, but. And the thing is, if Mike Tomlin's phone would ring so hard, so fast if he became available, there are so many teams that would just snap him right up. So
he would go in seconds. He would not. He would just go. He would go in seconds. And
right.
Same with Harbaugh. I mean, I don't think either of these guys. I don't think either of these guys are leaving. Nor why would they? I'm just saying in general. There are some people that feel like all these guys should go. Or no, they're not. They're not doing that. The Harbaugh and Tomlin are synonymous with the Ravens and the Steelers and that iconic rivalry. They're not going anywhere, and this is another reason. This season is another reason as to why.
So before we close out, is there anything else, Vinny, that sort of you are taking from this game that you think might change or help you to sort of figure out how you think the rest of the season might play out in the AFC North?
I think the Ravens are going to win that division. I thought so ahead of time mostly, but I now especially think that's been the case. And this is a bold prediction, but I know it's a little bit early, but I think this Bengals team, if they don't make it in the playoffs, if they make the playoffs, they'll be like a 6-7 seed, like one of the last playoff teams. But I think it's more likely than not that they might actually miss the playoffs. Actually, if there is concern,
I don't know if that's that hot a take, but
it's not a hot take, but it definitely could happen. Their slow start.
Could definitely happen. No, I'm saying I don't think it's that hot a take because they have some actual structural issues. Some of it coming to salary cap stuff. They got some things to figure out this offseason. The good news, they draft well. They have like I said, a small but very, very productive, sturdy little scouting department. The thing that I'm going to take away from this is that the Ravens are figuring it out. That new offense, they're figuring it out. They're going to close the last part of this season really strongly. I truly do believe that.
I think the Ravens, looking at their schedule, it's beatable. I mean, next week you get the Chargers on prime time on Sunday Night Football. Okay, you could beat them. Then you're the bye week, and then you host the Rams. Okay, you could beat them too. Then it's Sunday Night Football again, where you're in Jacksonville against the Jaguars, and then you're against the Niners on Christmas Day.
Very tough.
That's going to be, Super Bowl rematch. That's going to be a good one. Then the next week, week 17, another really good one against the Dolphins, and you close up against the Steelers. I mean, I still think even with the schedule that at the end gets tougher, I still feel like at the end of it, I feel like this Ravens team is going to finish up as a 2 seed in the AFC. I really do. Like, I think the Dolphins will be like the 3 or the 4, and whoever finishes first in the South will be like 3 or 4 also.
And I think a lot of what you said is very accurate. So, on behalf of Zennie62 Media, and of course, I'm Bill Carroll. That is, there he is. That is Vincenzo. That is Vinny.
Yes,
and
that's my name.
It is a pleasure. It is a very much our pleasure. We're glad to be with you. We will be doing something again before the Sunday night game, and we hope to see you there.
Yeah, see you guys.
Have a good evening, everyone.